I'm playing a 5-10-25 live stream at Texas Card House with some crazy action players. I'm in for $5,000 and get into multiple $10,000 pots, including a huge all-in to finish off the night.
And just like that, bang! Wolfgang Poker taking down that $11,000 pot.
In the end, I cash out for the biggest win of my life in Texas. Grab some popcorn, the action starts now. We start off the live stream playing a $100 PLO bomb pot in which me and Danny both chop it with the 7 high straight. We then move into the first hand. I'm in the $10 blind and I raise it up to $200 over a straddle from the big blind. I make it $200 and Ram puts in the call. He was the third blind and we see a flop which comes king, queen, deuce, rainbow. Blind versus blind, this is a board that's going to favor the aggressor in that spot, which is me, so I decided to go for a $200 bet. Ram did make a pair and he has a spade flush draw to go along with it, so I don't blame him for putting in the call, and we see the 4 of clubs peel off on the turn. When I get called on the flop, we're not really loving it, but this board heavily favors my range as opposed to his. Additionally, I did pick up some additional outs. Any 5 would give me the wheel, so I decided to bomb it here on the turn, betting 2/3 the size of the pot. And as you can see, that bet worked. Ram folds, and we are up $600 early on in the session. Ever had a royal? That sucks, man. Hit a royal. Alright, this is the big hand I alluded to in the intro. Nick in the +2 position comes in for a raise to $75 with the king 10 of hearts. Viddy obviously has the ladies and decides to 3-bet him to $250. RV Phil decides to flat and the action's over to me in the cutoff. I have the second best hand ever created. And I actually have a hat that has pocket kings on it, although I'm not wearing it in the moment. I decided to come in for the 4-bet and I make it $825. I decide not to go very large because a 4-bet already screams strength, so I want them to call with hands like 10s, jacks, queens, and I'll get the value in this hand on the flop, turn, and river. When I make it $825 in the hand, I only really expect to get called by Viddy, who was the 3-better out of the low jack. He does in fact put in the call, and RV Phil, and he puts in the call from the hijack with the ace-9 offsuit.
No, Phil gets a prize. He gets.
He does.
We are going 3 ways to the flop, which comes jack, jack, 6, rainbow. When the action checks to me on the flop, I like a down bet in this situation, just keeping all the hands in. As you can see, RV Phil is ace-9 offsuit, but if I make it really small, he might just be enticed to put in the call. I decided to go 1/5 the size of the pot for $550. And we got to get through Viddy first if we're going to see what RV Phil decides to do. Viddy has the ladies, and he wants to find out exactly where he's at right here and right now, and he decides to go for the check raise up to 1.4K. I'm not going to tell him how to play. I'm just not sure if I would do the check raise in the spot, although he is going to get a good amount of information. RV Phil gets out of the way, and the action's back over to me. If I put in the call here, it's pretty strong. I'm pretty much saying I have an overpair or a jack. If I fold, obviously he wins the hand right away, but I'm not doing that. I put in the call and we are going off the turn, which comes the 10 of diamonds. Now with the information in hand, Viddy decides to slow down and check. I don't blame him. My call on the check raise on the flop was very strong. So when he checks it over to me, I don't hate a check back in my spot.
So I guess now Wolfgang can check it back. So he gets value by queens.
You can hear Chris Moneymaker in the announcer booth say, I'm really only going to get 1 street of value here, so I think I like a check on the turn and pick off bluffs on the river and also hands that I beat. For instance, if I check back here, Viddy's going to bet the river and I can either just shove on him or snap call him. If I bet here, it's going to scare off all the bluffs, but in the moment, I decide just to get my stack in, and I say just, but I rip it all in for 2.9K effective. I think this is a learning moment though. I should be checking this back and getting more value on the river, but no harm, no foul here. I rip it in. He decides after a little bit of thinking to put in the call, and he has 7% equity to win this hand, and let's see what the river card brings in. It's not a queen, it comes the 7 of diamonds, and just like that, we played an 11.1K pot, and it's all coming my way. Let's freaking go.
Just like that, Wolfgang Poker for the vlog, taking down an $11,000 US pot.
All right, this next hand is a fun one as well. Sam and Viddy both decide to limp for $50, calling that straddle, and I find myself on the button with pocket 10, so of course I'm going to come in for a raise. I decide to size up here to $250. Safine and Under the Gun decides to put in the call. Sam gets out of the way, and Vidi makes a super interesting limp re-raise to 1.1k. In the small stakes games, you guys might be familiar with that guy who limps under the gun and then decides to raise it after you raise it. That's usually indicative of aces or kings. Here in these live stream games, it's going to be a little bit looser than that, but still, this is alarm bells going off in my head. He could either have aces, kings, or queens. He'd also have a hand like ace-king maybe if he decides to play trappy, or he's going to have all these weird garbage hands as well. For that reason, I kind of like a min-click back over to him. I probably should make it like 2.4 to 2.6k and just see where I'm at. I want to get a lot of these bad hands to fold, 8s, 9s. If they put in the money, they can put it in bad. That's definitely not a bad play in the moment though. I just didn't really know what to make of it. I have never played against Vidi before, and I decided just to flat call it. Obviously pocket 10s are way too strong to fold in this spot. I decided to put in the flat call, and Safin gets out of the way. Heads up to a flop, and it's not great. It comes ace, deuce, deuce, rainbow. I say not exactly the best because he could have ace, king, ace, queen, ace, jack. It's obviously an overcard to my 10s, but at the same time, if he bets out here, I'm not going to fold just the one bet. But surprisingly, he decides to check the board that he should have a definite range advantage on. And so when it checks over to me, I decide actually to go for a bet for $750. It's around 33% the size of the pot, and my logic for going for this size of a bet is I want to get value against all those other pocket pairs, and I don't really expect him to check raise me too often, so I think this is a good bet just to get some more money in the middle with a hand that's probably good once he checks the flop. Additionally, if he decided to check here on an ace-high board with a hand like kings or queens, a bet on the flop, turn, and river will definitely get him to fold, so I could be setting up a triple barrel bluff here with the pocket 10s. He doesn't decide to check raise me, he just puts in the call. I think I'm pretty good on this board. In the turn card now comes the 5 of diamonds. I'm expecting him to check it over to me, and if he does that, I'm definitely going to be checking back on this turn. You could say I should go for more value on this turn if he checks it over to me, but I kind of like a check back, pick off some bluffs on the river, or go for value myself.
What's going on there?
Goes for the donk lead on turn. I have no clue what's going on in San Diego.
All those options are off the table though when Vidi in the hijack decides to bet out for 1.5k. Yeah, he decided to limp re-raise pre-flop, check call the flop, and now just lead out into me for 1500. It's a super weird line, and looking at his exact hand, king 3 suited, he's obviously full of it, but in the moment, I mean, how would you guys play against that exact line? Super tricky, and for a lot of money here, I decided to let my pocket 10s go, which in the moment was a huge mistake, but I think in the long run here, it's just a weird line, and I didn't want to get my hand caught in the cookie jar. We were playing super deep, so if I call here, he's probably just going to rip the river a bet huge. So I wanted to save this 1.5k, but as you can see, a mistake in the moment, and something for me to remember the next time I play Vidi. Still up $5,000 on the session. I looked down at ace-queen offsuit from the low jack, and I decided to 3-bet RV Phil up to $400. He raised from early position, so I decided to go a little bit smaller this time in case he decides to click it back over to me for like $1,000. When the action comes back around to him, he decides to put in the call, and we see a good flop for my range. It comes king 10 deuce. RV Phil checks it over to me, and this board is going to smash my ace, king, king, queen, pocket 10s, all that good stuff. So I decided to go for a small down bet of $300. RV Phil has a pocket pair. People don't fold pocket pairs on live streams, let alone live streams in Texas. So I expect him to put in the call, which he does. And he turns gin when it comes to 8 of clubs. He checks it over to me in a sneaky fashion, and all logic would say continue to pile money in here, Wolfgang. Put in like a $1,200 to $1,600 bet on this turn and evaluate rivers. But somehow, some way, I decided to check back. Something just felt weird. Something felt a little bit off in this hand, and I wanted to see what he'd do on the river. So when I check back and the river comes a 9 of diamonds, RV Phil decides to think a little bit, which, definitely means he's going to come in for a bet, and he decides to bet $1,500. It's the size of the pot, and my ace high is in a weird spot. I decided to let it go, and my check back on the turn saved myself around $1,000, which is pretty great. And we move right along into the next hand where I have ace-queen offsuit once again. Nick on the button decides to raise it up to $150. RV Phil's not folding jack 10 offsuit. And I'm in the big blind here, and I decided to raise it up to $650. I want to size up here because I'd be out of position against Nick the rest of the way, but it looks like we are going heads up in position when RV Phil decides to put in the call. The other guy gets out of the way, and we are going heads up in position to a flop, which comes 8-4 deuce with 2 clubs. RV Phil checks it over to me, and this is a board that I want to be checking back a lot. Sure, I'm going to have all those overpairs, but RV Phil's going to have a lot more of those sets. 8s, 4s, and deuces when he calls a raise and then calls another raise. I mean, yeah, that's just all him on this board. I decided to check behind, and the turn now comes the 7 of hearts. Because I would be checking this flop with all my overpairs, I think it's fine when he checks it over to me for a second time to go for the delayed c-bet. I'm still going to have all those overpairs, and his line of calling and then checking 2 streets is just pretty weak in general, so I decided to bet for $475. Might be able to get value from hands like exactly that he has. As you can see here, I have a 75% chance to win this, so when he puts in the call, we are off to the river, which comes a great card for my range. It comes the king of diamonds. In the case that I was bluffing here with ace-king offsuit and stuff like that, great card for me because now I catch up. Interesting decision from RV Phil to just lead out into me for $1,500.
Ah, that's a weird line.
He did it with his pocket eights when he had it. Now he's going to do it with a bluff. Hey, man, RV Phil, what a balanced player. Love to see it, man. And I can't sniff it out, though. I decided to fold my ace high, but this hand was a huge bummer for me when I saw this stream and saw exactly what he had, because players out in the 1-2 and 2-5 streets, they just check it over to me. I would go for a nice chunky bet representing that king, and they would fold. But against savvy opponents here on the live stream like RV Phil, he leads out on the river and sniffs weakness, and he gets rewarded with that $4,000 pot. All right, ace-3 of diamonds here from the low jack, and I decide to raise it up to $75. Rom's in the hijack and decides just to put in the flat call, and the action's on Snam in the big blind, who puts in the call as well. We are going 3 ways to the flop, which comes queen 10-4 with 2 clubs. Sam checks it over to me. I'm out of position to ram, so I decide to start with a check. I usually like to check my entire range when I'm in between 2 opponents. So yeah, even though I have ace high here, I'd also check a lot of hands like queen jack and king queen. The logic for doing that is if Ram decides to put in a bet and then Sam decides to 3-bet, I mean, I could just pretty easily get away from a lot of good hands there. So yeah, I decide to check. Ram checks behind, and we see the deuce of diamonds peel off on the turn, giving me the straight flush draw. Not often you can say that, so pretty cool for me to have ace-3 of diamonds on a 4 and deuce of diamonds board. When Sam checks it over to me for a second time, I'm going to go for that delayed c-bet. Represent all those strong queens, the sets of 10s, all that good stuff. I bet out for $125. You can see that Ram has second pair, so I don't expect him to go anywhere. He puts in the call. Sam has a gutter to the straight. Any jack would give him that, but he wisely decides to fold, bringing in what I think is a good card for me. It comes the ace of clubs. Little do I know that top pair for me turns into top 2 for Ram. I decide to go for a small value bet here to the tune of $150. If I get raised, I can pretty much get away from my hand 9 times out of 10. But I like my small sizing here because Ram decides just to flat call with the 2 pair. So we get to see a cheap showdown. That $800 pot is going Ram's way, but top pair versus top 2 should have been a little bit bigger there. So I think I got off the hook nicely. Up $3,000, we see Safine raise it up to $150. Ends up getting 3-bet from Sturdy with the jiggities. And the action's back over to me in the big blind with ace-king offsuit. Out of position against both opponents, we see a raise and a 3-bet. Definitely got to be 4-betting here. I don't like a flat call. That would bring Safine in as well. Or you could just back squeeze and put me in a weird spot. Ace-king offsuit is a premium, so I decided to re-raise. It is a 4-bet to the tune of 1.1K. It's always gnarly there where you're putting over $1,000 in the pot pre-flop. But yeah, it gets Safine to fold and the action's back over to the Sturdy. 5-bet here I think would be overvaluing Sturdy's hand. When the big blind comes in for a 4-bet, that screams strength, so I really like just his flat call here, and we are going heads up out of position to a flop, which bails me out. It comes king 5-3 with 2 diamonds. Neither of us have a diamond. I do have the king, giving me top pair, so I really like a small c-bet here, as I'll be either way ahead or way behind Sturdy's range. In this case, I am way ahead. I have a 94% chance to win this hand, so I decided to go for a small bet of $750. I honestly think even smaller, like $500 or $600, would do the trick as well. But for this price, I don't expect Sturdy to fold. I could have a lot of hands like ace-jack, ace-queen, stuff like that. So when I bet for $750 and he folds, huge shock to me and a great fold by him. He gets off the hook there easily, and honestly, I feel like I got robbed out of another 750 there, but we're not complaining. Up to 4.4K in profit, and that brings us into the last hand of the night, but it's one of the best ones. I look down at the bullets from the low jack, trying to play it cool. I decide to raise it up to $300. Safine on the button with ace-10 offsuit wisely folds, and the action's over to Nick. In the third blind with the jacks, he decides to come in for a raise. I don't blame him. Pocket jacks are a great hand, especially against just a single raise. He decides to put in the 3-bet to 1.1K. When the action folds back around to me, I think flat calling is an option a small percentage of the time. I also like a 4-bet, although that pretty much screams queens, kings, aces, and ace-king. A very narrow range, so that's kind of why I like putting in some flat calls as well. But he's not too deep, he's 2.7K effective, so I decide, hey, if he puts in that 1.1K pre-flop, he probably wants to play for the whole stack. I decide to rip it all in, covering him, and he puts in the call. Just like that, we are playing a nearly $8,000 pot, aces versus jacks. I have a good chance to win this, and the flop doesn't help him one bit. The turn queen of hearts is interesting because he could have queens in the situation, but when the 5 of hearts peels off and I turn over my aces, he mucks his hand, and we are going to end the night and this 5-10-25 live stream with a $7,700 pot coming my way. And yeah, what a night this was. A privilege to be playing on such a prestigious live stream, and an honor that you guys are watching this video. I rack up my chips and head over to the cage.
All right, you guys, that wraps up the biggest win of my life in Texas. I got in for 5,000, out for 12,200, profit of 7,200, which is crazy. That lineup was super fun. Shout out to everyone who made it a great night. Had some wine, saw royal flush, made my biggest win ever in Texas. If you guys like this video and you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Drop a subscribe. Want more TCH content to come. As always, good luck on the felt, you guys. Really appreciate all the support. The channel and my poker game is going in upward directions, and I really couldn't be more excited about it. Good luck on the felt. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.
What's up, you guys? Wolfgang here. I'm here in Dallas at TCH, but on April 20th and 21st, I'm heading all the way down to Houston. That's right, they just opened up a new card room there, and I'm gonna come out to meet a bunch of you guys. The 20th is gonna be a live stream on their YouTube channel, TCH Live, and that's gonna be at 5:10. You guys are gonna wanna watch that. On the 21st, I'm hosting a meetup game from 7 p.m. to midnight. Anyone can make the vlog, and who knows, I might put a bang sticker on you if I'm lucky, not you. I'll see you guys there.
Thanks for watching to the end of my video. Click my head below to subscribe and stay in the loop. See you next time.